Okay, folks, here we go.
Here we go. Let's have a good show.
1B, stand by.
Yeah.
Yacht, stand.
Yeah,
Take it.
just like get at midfield.
Take
Just go
it.
right now. Go to camera 3. 3. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, graphics 2 is going to be up for the first. Okay.
Okay.
Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to.
Is that us? We're on?
I think we are on. I'm not sure what just happened there, but
Just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to. Q, Sophie.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Yeah, go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. 2.5.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
1B, stand
Step adelante, loco.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
all right. Now we're back on our Panama day. That was a little bit of a glitch there. It's been hopefully it's not a night of glitches, but anyhow, here we are, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and 7 p.m. Canal Zone time. It's happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. Ricky, happy Friday to you, man.
Happy Friday to you too, my friend and brother in arms. Guys, are you guys ready for an incredible show tonight? We're going to learn a lot about the canal itself, the actual piece, the actual lock, the animal that thing is.
There you go.
All righty. Well, welcome everybody to our weekly happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. This is a Friday night podcast that brings you the Canal Zone and the Panama Canal itself right to your living rooms. A happy hour that's all about everything you need to know with regards to the Panama Canal and its towns, its history, its people, and its social events. A place where everybody knows your name. Thank you, like always, for joining us. I hope you enjoy our show tonight. Willie's done an incredible job of putting this together. I will, like always, be providing some, what do you want to call it, some color on the side. But we have a great guest, and he'll be joining us quite, soon, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's gonna be a great show, guys. It is so the month of May, it's Panama Canal month, and so all of our episodes have had to do with the actual canal itself. Our show is normally about the Canal Zone, Canal, Panama, everything involved in that. But this month we really wanted to focus just on the big ditch, and so we've done an excavating show. We did a great show last week about transiting the canal all the way from the anchorage out in Toboga, all the way out to crossing the breakwater in Colón and Limón Bay and everything in between. And so this week we're going to focus on the Gatun locks. They're the largest of all the locks. They encompass just one set, and we found out that it was because of the geology underneath at the ground. They didn't think could support a set of locks that big on the Pacific side, so they split it into two. Whereas in Gatun, it was all one big lock section there. So we're going to cover that. Jim Duffus, who's a regular here on the show, is joining us, and he's going to tell us all about that. He worked on the locks in Gatun, back in the late 70s, early 80s. So should be a lot of fun to go over that piece and talk about how that lock piece works, specifically the different jobs and stuff. I mean, one of the things I learned right away as I started doing research and getting some graphics and stuff ready was, we've probably all heard the term lockmaster, right? And you think, of course,
correct,
that's the big wig, somebody in charge or whatever, the lockmaster, right? And
like
so you assume that they're way up there in the tower, right? Looking down
or
upon
at the admin building, or the big corporate office. With
But that's
secretaries
not the case.
and
So we're going to find out here in just a bit where the lockmaster's office is, right, and what they do as far as keeping those ships moving, because it is quite a coordinated piece. We've seen, Captain Andrew's been on the show several times and talked about it. He also a couple times he's just gone live with us in one of our chat groups, and a lot of what they do is through horns and signals and bells, right? Because, these ships are so big. You have something 500 feet, 500 yards ahead of you there in those locks. They may not see you waving your hand, but they can hear a horn, a bell, or something, and they know,
Yeah.
what that means.
And they use ginormous arrows. I mean, how simpler? Can it
Yeah,
get,
no
you know,
kidding.
that
No
way, that way.
indeed,
Yeah.
indeed they do. So they definitely keep it simple, but again, we're going to learn about the Gatun locks specifically and working there next week, end of the month. It's our 5th Friday of the month. We have a couple of months that have those 5 Fridays, and so we'll do a recap. But before we recap, we're going to also go over what the tugboats are doing, right? David Cohen is going to be joining us, CHS class of 86. He's a tugboat captain, and he's going to tell us about what they do to bring those ships in and help, guide them through and whatnot. And then his brother, Maurice Cohen, CHS class of 85, he works for with a support company that offers a lot of support to the ship's repair work, replenishings and things of that nature.
Speaking of ships, we're getting
And
a hello right from
Yes.
one of the locks.
There you go. Yeah. Speaking of the Canal and speaking of Captain Andrew Demaitis, great show last week, by the way, Captain. But he's back on her. And by the way, last week, guys, talk about somebody burning the candle at both ends. He was transiting a ship in the morning, and then when he got done, he got home and he got prepped and got ready, and then walked us through transiting a ship in the evening, for a couple hours. So
yeah, no, those guys are working hard, Willie. They're
Yeah.
putting 41 ships a day now going through the locks.
they are at capacity or very close to it now.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah,
and
indeed
and
they are.
lucky we have the water, but now they're all. Well, let's keep going. Let's not get into boaching so
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, because there's a lot going on there that I know Ricky's gonna want to cover there. And by the way, the reason I have these headsets on, if you're wondering, like 2 minutes before we start the show, my mic just glitches out, man. It just stopped
I
working
like it
altogether.
though. Maybe I'll get a pair too.
So,
we'll do it.
It does
we'll do
sound
it. Yeah,
good,
we'll
but sometimes
do
with the green screen, it does mess around a little bit. But in this case, it seems like it's working good. Maybe
Yeah.
my bald nugget there is
Isn't
working
that what
on
all
that
the
as well.
podcasters wear? The
It does sound clear. That's
I
something
still wear
I
my
do
own-
know that.
cell phone by now, man.
Yeah. So, but
Cholo no puedo ser, right?
No, indeed not, indeed not. But anyhow, let's move things right along there because, like I
Yes.
said, we've got a great show, and we're going to say hello to a couple of the folks here, and then get some quick announcements and stuff. Jim, good to see you guys, Jim and Diane. I had it 4 weeks ago, and I'm doing very good. Well, listen, prayers to you. Hope that you continue on the mend there. We missed you, hadn't heard from you in a couple of weeks there. So again, fingers crossed and prayers that you continue on the men's there, Jim. And when you do have a chance, let me know and we can chit chat about the electric component, right? Because that's a
When the
big deal
lights
there.
came on.
We were thinking about it just now, even doing this piece on the Gatun locks. The Gatun Dam is right next to it, and that's the major power source for the zone, and that's something that Jim Bradley, for those of you that don't know, was quite involved in, is providing a lot of
Everything
power to the
electronics,
zone.
yeah, everything
he
with
was big in that
power,
electric
electricity.
division and stuff. So, but again, continue prayers for you to continue on the mend there. Leaf, good to see you.
Hey, Leaf.
What about Starship 12? That's probably going over my head somewhere. You'll have to refresh my memory what you're talking about there. Bill, good to see you. Happy Memorial Day, guys. This is the weekend that we are all very thankful for all the things that we're able to do and grateful to do because of those that have sacrificed and given that ultimate sacrifice. And we celebrated this Memorial Day. So several, I know, like for example, Joel Baldwin, that one comes to mind. Good friend of mine, BHS classmate, Balboa Bulldog teammate that gave the ultimate sacrifice in Iraq several years ago. But thank you for your service and everybody else that has made that sacrifice. So thanks for that reminder, Bill. Appreciate you. And again, Jim Duffus will be joining us
Robert
here
Joyce,
shortly.
right
Robert,
on.
good to see you, man. Good day to you as well. I'm assuming Robert's down in Panama. That'd be pretty cool. Saludos. Good to see you there. Mozart, hello from Kentucky. All right. Mozart 5575 from Kentucky. Very good. So we got some Kentucky folks here. I know that Chris Jeffries on occasion is in that area. That's home for him. Mark, listen, I apologize for not getting that to you. I realized it a couple days ago that I had totally forgot. Mark and I are working on a some software he's helping me with to work on videos and stuff. And it just keeps doing some funky things, and then I get sidetracked. I'm just so absent-minded. I apologize, but I promise you I will get that out to you because I really want your help on, especially with those music videos. I think that'll be a cool
Hey, Rich.
tool to use that. Rich, good to see you. Buenas noches. Happy Friday to you. Feliz viernes. So anyhow, let's get some announcements going and get some bochincha so we can get our guest Jim and
Canal,
start learning
yes.
about the Gatun locks.
Yes.
SCN Television presents K-Pasa. And now here's this evening's host, Army Sergeant Bob Foster.
Good evening and welcome to K-Pasa. We've got two guests tonight. First Sergeant First Class Jim Webb. Sergeant Webb's with the 227th Military Police Detachment.
That's right, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Love
They're
that
due
too.
here this month. I think it's this weekend, actually.
Yeah, you need to go to that, man. In fact, listen, if you could somehow go to that and get those people to take a picture with you and tell them, listen, man, you're not going to believe this, we grew up listening to your music down in the Canal Zone, man.
So did
Everybody
my father,
recognized
by the
that
way.
song. So anyway, so what do we got going on? I know that
we got a lot happening. First of all, cheers, everybody. I don't know how we skipped cheers in our intro, but cheers to everybody.
Did. Salute,
Happy hour,
everybody.
salute.
Yes, indeed.
Mm.
Indeed, I don't
2+
believe we forgot
years.
that.
We've never missed that. Well, it's just that, sometimes there's the flow going, and Willie and I just get going, and the flow, and then boom, we're moving right on.
Yeah. Well, the whole mic thing got me a little discombobulated anyway, so
Yeah, well, we got some great news. Short, but like 3 pieces, but they're incredible.
Yes. So
All right,
before we do that, though, because I know that
Yes.
Ricky he gets into those, and God bless him, but he'll run with those, and next thing you know, man, it's like what's his name? Your boy, Life is a Box of Chocolates, catches that pass, he runs right out of the end zone.
for sure, man.
Yeah,
for
Forrest
sure.
Gump, and he kept
But,
running, man.
the
But
thing is that we inform. We're really
oh,
up to
well, and
date.
it's
We inform
compelling.
you guys maybe a day or two before you really see it.
Yes.
And it has mostly to
It
do because we have
does.
this chat group with a lot of people searching news for us, and we do get it like
there's a lot of sources out there for sure that throw stuff our way. But no, real quick then. So like I said, because once Ricky gets started on it, then it's we're cruising along. But don't forget, guys, next week is the deadline to get yourself registered for the reunion. Okay, May 29th is the cutoff to ensure that you have and secure your room, all that stuff. Class of '86. I know there's a reunion. Go onto the Facebook page, the Class of '86 Facebook page, because Debbie Earhart is asking for confirmations of who's going to show up and if there's going to be any +1s for Friday night's event. I imagine, Ricky, your class is probably doing the same thing as well.
Yeah. With us, you got to pay, and then we know you're on the list. So it's $100, and you're on the list.
Right on.
And also for Class of 81, guys, Thursday the suite opens after 5 p.m. So come by for a little happy hour, a little meet and greet. And then Friday we have the dinner at the suite, and that'll be open from noon on Friday. And then Saturday we got the pool cabana and the prom night, and then of course pictures on Saturday. Everybody, to make sure you stick around for that. And hope to see you guys all there for an incredible weekend of Zonian get-togethers.
Should be a great time, guys. Should be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a jam-packed next couple months, man. I'm less than a month away from traveling to Toronto for the World Cup to watch Panama and Croatia play. So I'm excited about that. I'm really stoked.
Don't forget, speaking of Croatia, that we have those pre-games, and in this 31st, which is not till next week. Next Saturday, we'll remind you against Brazil. So you're going to see their top team play, and this is the game that they're going to have to prove to the coach that they deserve to be on the traveling team.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of teams are making those announcements, and a few that may have some undecideds there. This is your last opportunity to showcase yourself.
It's going to be against Brazil, because
the other day
a few days later, Willie, they're playing the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
I don't know why I wrote it that way. I always said that on a few days later, and then Bosnia, and then the World Cup starts.
Yeah, so Bosnia should be a good matchup to give them a good Croatia look.
Yeah.
Right, and kind of get ready for them and see what you expect there from that formation. So
it
should be good. I'm excited, man.
They're gonna have a big, like coming out on who's gonna be on the list. So we'll keep you guys. Hey, Rick, we'll keep you guys posted on that.
Yeah, and real quick, Bill McLaughlin, good to see you, Bill. Tommy Rymiller, hope I'm pronouncing that right, BHS 70, killed in action in Vietnam. Rest in peace, and thank you for that ultimate sacrifice.
Yes, and from Class of 81, Evan Moldyke from Los Rios. He was a major, and he passed when the Scud missile hit the camp.
Wow.
He was in that. So
well, God bless
all the
these
Canal
guys,
Zone
and
boys.
God rest
Thank
your
you very
souls.
much. Yeah,
rest in peace, Zonians.
Yes.
So, but hey, it's let's move right along there. Last thing, real quick on that reunion. Don't forget, there's always a lot of great things going on. There's a golf tournament. By the way, they do need volunteers. I did see a posting on that. They do need some volunteers. Go to their website, pancanalsociety.org, and look and see there. They need volunteers for a lot of different activities. The people that do these things and sit at those tables, they're Zonians like you and I. They're going to the reunion to enjoy themselves as well, but they take a little bit of time out to, to give back by just
smooth.
Yeah, helping
it does.
themselves.
It runs super smooth.
It does.
So
It
if
is
you haven't experienced it, and this is your first time, you'll see how organized and how how
It
runs.
is. And one of the folks that is responsible for, if nothing else, that template of a successful reunion recently is Bill McLaughlin.
That young man right there.
He was former president of the society, but also his career was in event planning and putting things together. And so,
imagine that's like the governor and all that stuff. And
oh my God!
Maybe one day we'll have him on and he can tell us all about that.
Yeah. Well, he did. Remember when he did that interview with us? And he explained that, and it was. I mean, it's quite an endeavor. Let me tell you what, man. Whoever takes on that task, kudos to you. You've earned whatever perks or benefits you get at the reunion, because it's a lot of work, man. And it starts, literally when that reunion ends, the next one is they start working on it and planning it. And yeah, you're right. They're putting together a lot of great stuff. The one standout activity, I guess you can call it, this one is going to be on Saturday, right? The big party, the big dance there, that's going to have the grand soiree, the Grand Tivoli soiree. Right. And that's it's that formal party that they want to take it back to where it used to be, where it's a more of a dress up occasion. It is going to include dinner. You can pay for a dinner and the dance, or you can just pay for the dance later on. But no shorts, no T-shirts, and make it a big deal.
Like a Saturday night at the Tivoli.
It is. Think of it as prom. You guys this is your prom, especially the graduating classes, man. Go there all dressed up and have a good time, man. It's that one time that you can still look nice, right? Because Zonians have a way of being laid back. I mean, that's the Zonian kind of way of doing things, right? Flip-flops and jeans for a Zonian is perfectly acceptable. That's considered semi-formal.
Hey, I wear blazers and nice and flip-flops, man.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's not unheard of in our circles.
In the Canal Zone, right. That's part of our
so they want to
dress.
Make that really snazzy, like again, Tivoli was a place where, back in the day they had presidents go there and dignitaries and superstars and whatnot. So you kind of having that name to this party, you want to give it some class, and therefore
it works out.
Jazz it up, man. Jazz it up.
I'll definitely be there.
Anyway, all right, do your thing, man.
All right, let's get into some Bochi news, guys. There's two very important news. Let's start with the ACP, which has to do with the canal.
Yep.
We have selected a new administrator, and it's the first woman administrator. So congratulations to Mrs. Espino, which our chat group and our side, we all were rooting for her. She has by far the best credentials. But Willie, I went ahead and researched the other candidates, and let me tell you something. I want to let everybody know, ACP, or the former Canal Zone company, it is manned by the top minds of Panama.
Yeah. Indeed, it is.
They don't play around with who the CFO is, and
totally,
who runs the top positions. And the other candidates were also they would have been great administrator as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Mrs. Espino, who 45 years or 40 years ago, 1985, however long that was.
Well, listen, she just recently. What did she just do recently?
Oh, no, she ran the third set of locks.
I mean, if
and
that doesn't
she's
tell
managing
you,
the dam project. I mean,
dude. Exactly.
So she's well respected worldwide in the maritime industry. Yeah. So congratulations to her. Cheers from the Canal Zone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, indeed. You can certainly say it wasn't a political choice. It was a choice that was who would best serve the country and the canal.
Well, let me tell you, I also did research on that, and what it was the board of directors. Because of what's going on with geopolitics and all the new routes and, the new, with Asia, right? All these new routes going to Asia. So they also had a political, so they were divided between, do we hire an operational technician like the one they did, or do we hire a politician that can handle all the geopolitics going on? Plus, remember, the canal is an engineering powerhouse.
Right.
It's also a financial enterprise, a logistic hub, and it's also a geopolitical instrument.
Correct.
So that's why there was a political, which would have, in my opinion, and probably everybody here too, would have been the wrong thing to do, is to put an administrator that's political. But
agreed.
There was a reason to think about it. But anyways, the new duties that this lady's going to be taking on from past administrators, shipping alliances now. How Costco's no longer using our ports,
right?
So LNG transit growth, and that has to do with all the new gas ducts that we're building. Plus, a lot of ships are going through. Those are the ones that are paying $4 million to get through. And of course, like I mentioned, the Asian trade routes. This is all new negotiations, new ports they're going to be using. Port integration. The Panama Canal is going to have 2 new ports that they manage, not the government. And of course, a global logistic restructuring. And that has to do mostly with 41 transits a day coming through. We got to remanage the water and the dam, and so it's going to be an incredible job that this young lady, because she's our age, is going to be taking on. And she is a Texas A&M.
Yes. Andrew throwing in another. Also, she's a Texas Maritime graduate from Texas.
Yes. They all went to school together. Zero, Andrew, all these guys, and her, they all went there together. They were all there together. And the president Torrijos, their guys were all there. Rio Indio, yes, she's running that. So that's what we have. So we have a great new administrator. Cheers to her. Cheers for the canal.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers for a great choice, a very smart choice.
Yeah, 7 years of it's going to be good director.
And I like that they're doing something like that. 7 years is a long time, but when you're talking about something like the Panama Canal and you're talking about any kind of projects, it's not usually something that's comes and goes in a few weeks. A lot of times these things take time to evolve and develop. And so, you put somebody in for 2 or 3 years and then you put someone else in, nothing ever really gets any traction, So 7 years is a long time to really get things going. And at that point you can say, hey, time to move on, or let's,
or new strategy like
right,
now.
Exactly. But give somebody enough time to put something in and make it work.
A new mind, yeah. And the last guy did a good job, by the way. He was there. He was kind of a C- there for a while, but he quickly, when the going got tough, he definitely showed up.
He had to.
Speaking of getting tough, what is up with everybody picking up Panama lately? Now Costa Rica has issues with us, and first the Chinese and the ports, and then of course Maduro, because Panama supported the other lady that was elected but didn't take over,
right.
And then he was talking. Now Costa Rica is
which is interesting.
Has escalated a trade war between us. It's like this. We buy 11 times more Costa Rican products than they buy Panamanian.
Yeah, see.
So, and then the Costa Ricans, they shut out all Panamanian productions, they're very
agriculture,
milk, that kind of stuff, right?
They
say, no, we don't want your stuff here. And they're straight up say, your products stink. Our products are way better and way cheaper. So no, we're not going to let you in here, right? So they cut us off. So, we cut them off. That's just kind of the way it works. And we've been dealing with this for a long time like this. I've never heard of a problem with Costa Rica other than the last time that we whooped on them back in the early 1900s. But the new president, 37 years old, she thinks she's the new Bukele, so she goes up on the first day, like the first things that she talks about. And Molino was there and called Panama out, saying, you're causing these problems, that just escalated. And Molino's like, wait a second, man, you don't buy our stuff, what's going on? Let's talk about this. Don't put me on the spot like this.
Right.
So he decided, we're going to escalate. So basically, Willie, he probably told the U.S. administration, hey guys, for Venezuela, for China, we need your backing, but this one, we got it, man. We got you. We got it. Yeah. We got this. So he went, because all of Central America brings together all their power, and then all the countries buy whatever power they need.
Correct.
So it's like a group thing,
Yes.
Well, Panama, Molino just told Costa Rica, guess what? We're not selling any power to you guys until, either A, we can sit down and talk this diplomatically, good neighbors that we've been for all these years, and B, tone it down a little bit, girl, man. We're getting, we're like brothers here, don't come attacking us.
Yeah, there's no need
you're going through the canal free of charge, we can change that.
Exactly.
I'm not going to change that, but
no, but it makes sense.
Escalated.
It totally makes sense.
Molino escalated by cutting off the electric power to Costa Rica, which they buy a whole bunch. I think it's, again, the same number. 11% of their needs are supplied by Panama. I'm sure they'll probably be able to go to like Nicaragua or wherever else they have.
Sure.
But that's what the president said. Oh, we don't need your power. But that's what's going on, guys. Costa Rica and Panama are now going at it back and forth. So good luck, Molino. You did well with all the prior fights that you have had.
And it's interesting, and I'm gonna insert a story here because you gave me a nice little segue there when you talked about Venezuela. One of the things that happened recently, of course, the whole it wasn't really an invasion; it was a military action, and they took out the president and brought him back to the United States and whatnot. And one of the things that's happened as a result of that is that they're gathering a lot of intel. Right, because Venezuela was up to a lot of no good. And we learned a lot about that on our show. We had our Zonian Steve Tochterman, right? And with his partner, Jesus Romero, not a Zonian, but he also, I guess, you know what? Actually, he was a Zonian. He was in Panama.
Lived down there long enough.
Sure did. Yeah. Anyhow, they wrote a book called Final Flight, Queen of the Sky, which was all about drug smuggling, but in particular taking aircraft and re-registering, and this whole scandal involving the FAA and some loopholes to really easily bypass coverage and just run a bunch of aircraft to smuggle drugs and whatnot. And so anyway, he's been on our show twice to talk about that book and about incidents involving Venezuela and narco trafficking and whatnot. And the other day in the news, one of the most wanted money launderers was captured. A guy by the name of Alex Saab, Saab, was on there, and he's somebody who was in their book. They were mentioning in the book, and it was funny because Ricky, what did you say when we were talking about that earlier? That
what?
As far as these people, when they come on our show and all of a sudden names get out there and all of a sudden this guy gets caught now, and so
well, that was the moment we had there. My mind, Willie, is somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it was we were just jesting around, but it was interesting that he mentioned that they brought him up even prior. One of the guys that he brought up that was in Argentina.
I remember now what you were saying is somebody's probably watching our show and go, wait, what? We know that guy. He lives right next door.
Next thing they call the 800 tip line. And next the guy's busted.
Because we did talk about it in the show.
Yes,
we actually didn't mention his name.
Remember, and then when he came back, he told us about the guy in Argentina that also was in the book, quite prominently, and that they had recently busted him as well. I guess the new president of Argentina at the time said, get this guy out of here, man. We're not.
So good job, Mr. Tochterman.
Yeah. So Zonian with a great
drop like flies.
Yeah, man. So congrats on that, and congrats on that book. Which, by the way, guys, you see on the bottom that scrolling piece right there. You can order the book Final Flight, Queen of Air on the website there. You can find it also on Amazon. And Steve's usually at the reunions, and he'll get you a signed copy of it as well. But it is a great book. It's a great story. Too. Yeah, it is. And Steve Tochterman is a Zona. He was an FAA investigator. His dad was a Canal Zone police officer. He worked with my dad and with your dad. And so. It's a cool legacy. With Frank Dupree as well. Absolutely. So,
well, listen. Anyway. Speaking of fighting, I don't know if you heard it's yesterday's news, but I'm going to let you guys know today. So, at the Fourth Bridge, this is a Chinese project, right? So there was, you have the Chinese company has their executives, and then Panama has their engineers, and then you have the foreman, superintendent, laborers, etc. Right. So, there was inspectors on the job site. And the Chinese management team went after them, hey, get the hell out of here, right? So then the two Panamanian engineers intervene and say, hey, wait a second, you know,
what are
this
you
is
doing,
part of
man?
the deal, you know.
Right.
And they roughed them up as well. They started roughing up the
Wow.
Panamanian engineers.
Alrighty then.
So then Suntrax, which we always talk about Suntrax as the bad guys, right?
Not in a good way.
Those guys fucking, they did not take that and they jumped the Chinese, man.
Good for them. And you'd expect that. I mean, unfortunately.
Of course, they got a couple of them got fired, but they weren't, you know, they were
the message
going to
was said.
It's like, enough already.
Yeah,
Everybody's
the message was
picking on
delivered,
us.
Yeah.
You know, what is this picking on Panama Day? You know,
In Panama, no less. It's not like you're doing this with Panamanian workers in China. You know, you're coming here to Panama and doing this. Come on, what's the matter with you?
Yeah. Well, Willie, to wrap this up, we've got a couple things. Canal Zone documentary. Wow, he's picking up a lot.
Yes.
Our boy Thane Wheeler. I understand we might have him on the show pretty soon.
Yeah, we're talking about a couple of interesting things going on there. And one of them, which I meant to get it set up, and I apologize for not doing it, Thane. I'll try and get it done here if I can. But Thane has started a new Substack, and the Substack is a way of communicating with it. It's much more effective than just strictly through the social media channels. And so,
like for uploading PDFs and pictures and stuff like that,
documents and information, and just more of a community type, organization there. So if you haven't already, check him out, Canal Zone documentary.
Yes, especially he's got two
involved.
great stories out there right now. One is music history, which I think is a great job. The catalog everybody that has been from the Canal Zone that is doing something with music, from recording artists to down to just like studio players. The whole Canal Zone genre. You'll be hearing about that if you follow his site. But he also had another one that I already knew, but not much people didn't, and this caused a lot of talk in social media, which I follow a lot. The Panamanian social media, Zonian talk all week long. It was been Zonian talk in the Panamanian social media. Well, Thane put out a thing about Edward Murphy. Who is Edward Murphy? A great Zonian, born and raised in the Canal Zone, born 1918 actually, to some army parents, and then he went to study fight. He was a fighter pilot in World War II, and then he started working, building jet engines, and he worked for NASA, the Apollo mission. He worked for F4s, and he worked with the Blackbird as well. So he coined the phrase, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. Murphy's Law. That's where that came from.
How about
Murphy's
that?
Law. It's Zonian. So that was all over the news, and Thane captured that. And so if you go there, Canal Zone documentary on Instagram, he's on Facebook and a whole bunch of other platforms.
Definitely sign up for his Substack. That is really where we're trying to move all the content to. And we're talking about tentatively now, we've written it in pencil, but kind of really dark in pencil, okay, that the month of August, we're going to do like Canal Zone rock and roll or music month. And really the Canal Zone music, really most of it was rock and roll music in that era. But we're talking about some great musicians from the 70s in the Canal Zone, from the 80s and 90s. There's a lot of great stuff out there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some amazing names that we don't recognize as Canal Zone musicians, but we recognize them as bona fide superstar singers, and they just happen to either were born in the zone or lived in the zone at one time. And to me, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is what group are you thinking, Ricky? Are you thinking the same one I am?
Was it Crosby, Stills, and Nash guy?
Well, that and Heart.
Heart, that's right, Heart. Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
The two girls from Heart, they lived in Coakley.
Unbelievable!
Yes. They lived in Coakley,
right?
That's right. So
yeah.
But
so these sites put out. Everybody was putting out this. This guy's a Zonian. That guy's a Zonian. It's been a great week. Zonians are kind of back on the.
It really has.
And hopefully
does
on a better light.
With that, Thane has he puts a lot of good work into that Canal Zone documentary, and so get involved, guys, because he wants to capture a lot of people's stories.
He's going to do a good job. So we'll have him on. All right. So also on the Canal documentaries and Canal social media sites, Noriel with the Panama Canal, the Panama Railroad
history. He
has a great history right now. Two things, of course. One, at the University of Panama, back in 1978, I guess when the canal was winding down, they sold two cabooses. The famous cabooses that our trains had. The last one, the one wearing
the back car.
The back car. Well, they sold two. Panama University bought one, and it became where they always, you want to get your prints made. But so he did a big story on it because nobody realizes what a gem that is.
Right.
So he's out there exposing that. Listen, at the university, you guys have one of the biggest gems in the railroad history. And then he also did a great piece on all the stations, and it's good to read them all, right? Corozal, Mount Hope, Gamboa, of course, Balboa, Gatun, Pedro
Ancon.
Miguel, and Panama. They actually call it Panama, not Ancon.
Yeah.
And then from the old school, he also showed them the Gorgona station and the Mataching station and the Frijoles station, which brings up part of that story on who the Zonians were. So one of the persons, Willie, they put was Rock Carew. And of course, everybody was going, no, he's not Zonian, impossible. Right. And then I put down, well, he was on a train from Frijoles to Coco Solo. Right. You can't get more Zonian than that.
And it was all in the Canal Zone
50,
territory.
60 likes, because everybody's like, oh,
certainly.
yeah. So we learned that here with David.
Right on.
Yeah, so again, Noriel, PRR_history on Instagram. He does an
and on Facebook,
incredible job.
Yeah,
and
he's been on our show several times, for sure. Yeah, great guy. His mom and dad worked on Barra, Colorado, on the island, the Smithsonian.
Correct.
So they would catch a train every morning. Out.
Frijoles, right? That's where they got off. That's why
they got off right there, and then they would pick up the launch there. And he did it a couple times. The whole take your kid to work day. So he got to take the train and go out to the island for work. So anyhow, that's good stuff.
All right. Well, once again, we are done with.
Nice. We did good. We only went over by about 5 or 6 minutes. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nice work. Nice work. No, that one actually is definitely the round of applause is due on that one for sure. But.
Good stories though, man. Good stuff happening.
Yeah,
hang in there, Molino. You got this, brother.
He is. He's doing well, and he's got Big Brother watching over his shoulder in case he needs anything anyhow. So, but all right. So listen, we're going to talk about the Gatun locks now, right? Our friend Jim Duffus is in the green room standing by. We got to pay our bills first, real quick. So we're going to talk to some howler monkeys, and then we're going to get Jim on here and learn all about the Gatun locks. So stand by, guys. There it is, and go.
Where can I find El Fulo?
He's out there catch waves.
Hey, Fulo! Fulo!
Oh yeah, I know food. I'm a Steel Chef winner. You know the food competition?
Really?
Yeah, look. Check out this video of my win on YouTube. The secret ingredient? Frozen shrimp. I'm gonna blow their minds. They're gonna be like, how did he do that?
Microwaved?
Trust me, dip it in the Howler Monkey Sauce Verde, you'll be blown away.
I love the balance of the garlic with the tang of the vinegar. I mean, it's classic. That's why it works so well with seafood.
Yeah. This combination of green habaneros and green bell peppers, it transforms the shrimp. Wow.
You were right. Dipping it in the Verde Howler monkey sauce, the combination of cilantro and sweet onions, man, that made a zero a hero.
Do you know a howler monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers? Or the fresh punch of Verde, where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, fired up with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
Here we go, guys. So,
cheers, Willie, man. By the way, everybody out there, Willie puts these together. It's just his work, his creative work. So cheers to that, Willie, man. Good job.
It's a lot of fun, man. It really is. But anyhow, as you guys see, our friend Jim Duffus is joining us. Jim, welcome. Happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. Happy Friday to you, man.
Hello, Jim.
Good to see you, Jim. So how's everything going out there out in the great Northwest?
It's a good place to be this time of year.
I'll bet it is. Now, does it get really hot and sticky in the summertime there?
No sticky, but we can get up to about 105.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow. Where in
but
are you close to Seattle?
Humidity.
Where are you up there?
I'm in North Bonneville, Washington. So I'm about 37 miles east of Portland, Oregon on the Columbia River.
Oh, so you're
Okay.
down- okay. All
Right
right,
on.
all right,
Right
all
on.
right.
Interesting. And now you're originally from Gatun, right? You're an Atlantic side. You're born and raised in Gatun. Is that correct?
No, sir. I was born in near Portland, Maine.
Oh, wow.
And my parents dragged me to Panama in 1957, and I was in a harness with a leash.
Good for them. Right
Flew
on.
into Howard Airfield. Wasn't an air base back then. And then my dad worked for the Navy at Rodman.
Okay.
My grandfather lived in Coakley at the time. And so I lived in Rodman for about 5 years. And then my dad ended up taking a job with Canal. We moved to Gamboa. And Dad worked on aids to navigation out of the dredging division and took care of the lights in the Gaillard Cut, Culebra Cut.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Now let's go back for just a moment because you mentioned something interesting. So your grandfather was living in Coakley.
Yes.
And you guys flew into Howard Airfield and into Rodman. So how was he down there and did one coincide with the other?
Yeah. So my grandfather during World War II worked for the U.S. Navy in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, doing sea trials on brand new submarines.
Wow.
And he was from Scotland.
Okay.
And there were about 5 Scots that worked there. And they ended up, you know how the executive secretary comes in, posts new job bulletins on the bulletin board. So they were at the naval shipyard after the war. And so 5 of these guys were Scottish electricians. And they ended up all putting in for jobs in the Panama Canal for the Navy.
Nice. Right on.
All 5 of them got jobs.
So
they moved their lunch table and card table down to Rodman and Coakley from
New England,
the Northeast, and got jobs there.
That's
and
great.
So my grandfather loved it, and he ended up loving to play golf. And I mean, I have a picture of him with Arnold Palmer playing in the 57 Panama Open, and
I think Arnold Palmer designed a few of those, by the way.
Yeah. And anyway, so that was my half of my family's introduction to the Panama Canal area.
Yeah.
And so I lived in Rodman until my dad transferred to Canal. And then we lived in Gamboa. And I think I lived in 6 houses in Gamboa and 12 houses in total in the canal zone, but ended up in Gatun before I left there and came with a job for the Army Corps of Engineers here at Bonneville.
Okay. So now BHS graduate then, and then you went to Gatun?
Yes, 73 graduate, and then I started the apprentice program that same year. Like 3 weeks later after you graduated, you got in the apprentice program, and I was an apprentice electrician. And so 4 years you graduate and then become a journeyman electrician, they call you. And then I worked, but in my 3rd year, they transferred me to the Atlantic side.
Okay.
You know, you go where you go.
Yeah, hey, everything happens for a reason.
And I love the Atlantic side. I truly did. I love the Pacific side. I love the Atlantic side. But
did you meet your wife Clover in the Atlantic side or on the Pacific side?
Actually, Clover was an Atlantic side girl, and in her senior year, her father was transferred to the Pacific side. So that's when we met.
Right on.
And we married in 76. So this is number 50 coming up in June.
For you. Congratulations.
But anyway, we married there at the Balboa Baptist Church above the train station.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting transferred to the Atlantic side for the electrical division, and then later transferred to Locke's division. After the treaty was signed in 77, it was obvious that I didn't have veteran status because I started when I was 17 with the canal. So it was smart for me to go to Locke's division of Marine Bureau. And then I went there, and about 78, I only worked there a few years.
Right.
But I I just loved it.
I'll bet.
I ate it up.
I'll bet. Yeah, we're gonna talk all about that because it's, to me, that's one of the really interesting things about the whole canal operation is the locks piece, right? There's a lot of moving parts there. There's a lot of coordination there, and it's amazing how it all happens because it's and Ricky and I were talking about it earlier when we were doing some sound checks and stuff. You rely a lot on bells and whistles and stuff because everything it's not like it's right next door to you, right? There's a lot of noise and the guy at the front of that ship is ways down, and so
what Captain Andy will tell you is, think about it, before we had portable radios. It was all hand signals back then. There were no portable radios. This is all, it's amazing. But as a lock operator or a locomotive operator, or a lock master, you had to know all of those hand signals because if we lost radios,
right,
you still had to put the ships through.
Yeah, there's no pause button. It's not a video game. You don't pause and read the instructions on plan B. It's got to happen now, and that's
exactly.
A lot to slow down, so you better know what you're doing. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we're going to get to that in just a moment, but I did want to talk about something else before we get into the locks piece there. That's something that you and I have chatted about before, and it's something we're going to try and get some help from our audience here at Happy Hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. So every year, and we've talked about this, in your chats as well, you have a golf tournament called No Surrender. So tell us about that tournament, as you guys can see on the screen here. And while you're talking about that, folks, one of the things that we want to do is we're going to see if we can't, as a collectively on the show, is sponsor one of the holes. They're $150 for a sponsorship. So you know what? If we all pitch in, you see the QR code on there, buy us a beer. All the proceeds will do it to collect to sponsor a hole on the show there. I'm going to go ahead and get 3 beers myself here in just a moment. I don't want to do it while I'm on the show, but get everybody to pitch in, get a few beers, and help a great cause here, and help sponsor the hole there on behalf of Happy Hour at the Balboa Yacht Club and all the folks that are watching this. But Jim, tell us all about this and everything behind it, and help us to get involved with you.
Well, it's very generous of you to even take the time, and I appreciate everybody that is even considering it. But our son Josh passed away from cancer, and he had esophageal cancer, and he battled it for 3 years. Just did a wonderful job of documenting his whole struggle on Facebook, and many of you have chimed in on that. And of course, we've assembled a book of all of his writings. We haven't yet published it, but we think we will at some point, and want to put it in doctors' offices where people are dealing with things that are more serious than most of us ever go through.
Sure.
But Josh played golf for Stevenson High School from the time he was a freshman. He made the varsity team. And Stevenson High School had to abandon their golf program because there was no money for it. And this is a shot in the arm to the program. It's back in, and there's players. But we like to honor Josh by raising money for the Stevenson High School golf team. And we play, this is our 3rd annual after Josh passed away, at Elk Ridge Golf Course in Carson, Washington. And we get some Balboa High School graduates and Cristobal High School graduates that come to this tournament, and they fly from around the country to be here. And we're so honored and thrilled to do this. But it's a fun time. It's a scramble tournament, just a great time. And we serve a pretty good lunch that the local community supports. So it's a good time. And anybody that wants to think about helping out for sponsoring a hole, what a great idea, Will. We're so thrilled that you're throwing that out there.
Of course, my pleasure. Absolutely. And like I said, guys, scan that QR code. If you're not watching the show live, we'll do this this week. We'll do it again next week for the show, and then throughout the week, because a lot of people tune into the show later on. They don't get to watch it live. But if you're watching it and it's not live, you can still scan that QR code on there and just buy us a few beers. All the proceeds are going to go towards sponsoring that hole, and hopefully we can get to the 150 or surpass it, of course. And if not, we'll do our best. But Ricky and I are going to certainly chip in as well, and let's get all the Zonians to jump in and say hello and and show their love to a fellow Zonian, and a great cause at that. So, but let me go ahead and
Hey, from my little brother. Ray.
There you go. There you go. Hold on. Let me see something here. Bear with me while you
We
guys
love
are.
Ralphie Furlong.
Yeah, Ralphie. I think Ralphie's on the road right now. He's traveling out to Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Driving 12 hours out there.
I believe he is. Yes. So safe
That's
travels
good,
out there,
that's
Ralph. Be
good.
safe on the road there. And I know, Jim, you were on the road earlier today
Nice
too
little
as well.
Pinner cruise.
But yeah, of course, you do that. But anyhow, let me do that here.
Only Zonians know what that means.
Yeah. we'll leave it right there. But so let's go ahead and switch gears here real quick. And again, guys, that QR code is still going to be there. But as you can see on the screen here, then the Gatun locks. There's Jim, Clover, and Josh. Josh is he's in the bun there, right?
This is about a month and a half before he was born.
Oh, right on. And that's the Gatun locks there. As you can see, the locks before ACP, right? Because you don't have the ACP logo on there. So
true. This was at this
PCC.
point, it's the Panama Canal Commission. Because when I started, it was Panama Canal Company, but then they changed that to the Commission. But absolutely, I just loved working at the locks.
Yeah, no, it seems like it would have been if there was, we were talking when we were doing the excavation piece, and I thought, what would be the job that I would really love to have if I was working in 1907 down on the canal? And I think it was going to be driving around Goethals in his little motorized car all over the rails, because I mean every day you got to take a tour of the entire Panama Canal operation while he was talking about it. But I think as a canal opened and whatnot, I think it would be really cool to work on the locks. It's almost like, for a kid, it's next to like a train, right? You're that awe of the big motors and all that stuff. And I can imagine the locks, it's the same thing when you see these massive ships and everything around you. So what drew you to, I mean, you transferred over to locks division, but was there ever a draw to that, or was it like a no-brainer for you, other than because of the logistics of it?
Honestly, Will, I would have preferred to work in the power plants.
Really?
But
okay.
It really didn't happen that way for me. Taking the job at the locks was a great, big equipment.
Right.
Exciting engineering and changes. You got to remember that all of the locks have gone through series of changes in the technology, and we'll see some SCADA stuff. It's always changing. The main stuff is there, but there's always an opportunity to learn something new, and that's what's really fun.
Sure. No, and one of the things that I didn't really think about or take into consideration when I was looking at all this, we were asking about why the Gatun locks were one solid set of locks versus on the Pacific side it was Miraflores and Pedro Miguel. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we found out that the geology of it was, the ground they didn't think would support it, back then, so they had to split them up. And they used the term a concrete bathtub. And when you take a step back, that is really what you see there. Oh, thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
All right, there we go. There's some ways to that sponsorship on the way. Eric, appreciate you doing that. Really do. Absolutely. So anyhow, that term, a concrete bathtub, really does make sense, because it really is. That's what it is. There was a lot of digging in the canal, but there wasn't nearly as much pouring of concrete. There was a ton of concrete poured, but you dug out trenches. Culebra is massive excavation, but they didn't pour anything down there. They just basically dug a giant ditch. But in Gamboa, this place here, and this is one of the things that I find fascinating, is when you look at the size of what they were doing there, they poured a total of 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete in the entire canal build. 2 million yards of that was the Gatun locks. Yeah. Almost half of it was just in those Gatun locks. Just absolutely incredible numbers and stuff. There's some other numbers there as far as the number of rivets and everything else. But I just found that to be to be really fascinating, and we're going to go over a little bit of background of the locks themselves, and then you can kind of really walk us through, a day in the life of somebody on the locks and all the different things they did there. But here's another one that I found interesting is, the bottom of this was 20 feet thick of concrete on the bottom of that to hold it up. And again, when you think about the amount of water, and water is obviously very heavy. If you ever try and carry a 5-gallon, jerry can full of water,
8
whatever.
pounds per, 8 pounds per gallon.
It's not light, and so it's really amazing, that they built this massive infrastructure, and how much concrete you really had to pour, and everything involved underneath it, because as we've learned, the whole thing is gravity fed, right? So there's no pumps in there, but you have these massive culverts big enough to drive trucks through there. Jim, tell us about those culverts. You've obviously been in and around that whole locks there, so give us kind of your rundown of this labyrinth.
Yeah, so remember, and Will, you probably have a slide there if you want to jump to it, but it'll show that the main culvert, and that's the center wall culvert, is the largest.
Right.
And it could take a railroad locomotive at its time right through that culvert.
That's incredible.
So it's like building a subway or something like that.
Kidding.
The sidewall culverts are somewhat smaller, so they don't deliver as much water as a center wall culvert.
Okay.
But it is absolutely fascinating when you think about the engineering that went in before they started pouring concrete.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you got to think about all of that stuff that goes in. And then some of the things that I thought, well, we should mention a few things that are overlooked today. One is the chain fenders. So remember that they used to have chain fenders, so a ship couldn't come through unless you lowered the chain to allow it in.
Sure, so it wouldn't wreck into the gates.
Exactly. During World War II, there was Special Intelligence Projects, SIP, SIP-3 and SIP-7. Those projects were at the locks. SIP-3 was to put out any fires in the gates of the canal, of the locks. Okay. SIP-7 was a special project that in the lake chambers, the chambers closest to the lake,
right,
there's dams that come up out of the bottom of the chamber that would seal off in the event of a catastrophic failure of the lake gates, so you wouldn't drain the canal.
Wow.
And those were still operational back when I worked there in 79. We would raise that SIP-7 gate, the emergency gate, and you could use either hydraulic pressure, air pressure, or pump water into it, and it's like a hydraulic cylinder that would raise the gate in the floor of the chamber to save the lake. Because if you lost the lake, you lost the canal.
Yeah,
you'd have to wait. You'd have to wait for enough rain to come to fill the canal again.
How long do you think it'll take to refill it?
It's about 2.5 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken. 2 years close to it. They started in 1909, I believe, is when they dammed up Gatun, and the Gatun Dam was completed, where they started backing the water up. And by then, remember they had the other area.
The Balboa dike.
Yes, and then exactly once they blew the Balboa dike up, but you had to have enough water in there to then rush it and fill the locks up. So,
and then remember that they had on those lake gates, they were doubled up, because if there was a failure of one gate, you wanted to still be able to open. So you'll still remember seeing some of those gates recessed.
Yes.
Another thing that we don't mention today, and where water is so critical, is we used to be able to run short, short chambers, or long, short, long chambers.
Okay.
There's intermediate gates, and what we don't see is the lateral conduits that force watering up underneath the bottom of the ship.
Right.
There are cylindrical valves that plug those, and you can plug some behind a chamber or in front of the chamber so that you only fill up a partial chamber. Say you're going to take the Crane Boat Atlas or just a couple of tugs through. There's no need to use a full chamber of water.
Oh, right.
Okay, makes sense?
Who makes that call?
These are our smart people from back in 1906, huh?
Heck yeah.
And they got this figured out. I love this engineering.
When you think about it,
and
you're
got
right.
to appreciate what went into building all of that ahead of time.
The foresight to see that, because you didn't go back and like, oh my God, let's dig all that out and do it again. Sorry, you got one pour and you're done.
Well,
So,
but here's the amazing thing about SIP-7. That was done during World War II as a special project, and nobody knew they were doing it, and they built a dam in the floor of the chamber and raised it up.
I had no idea. That's the first I've ever heard of that they
during
had
the war.
that right
And
in the
you
middle
weren't
of that.
allowed to take pictures of it until like 19 in the 70s.
It makes sense.
Because it was all top secret.
Sure. Well, because even then, you know, regardless of neutrality of that canal, you know, we knew that was still something that some people would want to take out, because who's going to benefit more than any other military for that canal would be the United States. So, you know, as neutral as it was, there's people that would like to see that out more than others. And it makes sense to keep that you know, that hush information there.
Yeah.
You know?
So a couple of other things that I want to mention, because we don't always talk about it. We just say, oh, we're moving water from the upper chamber to the middle chamber.
Right.
But you've got different kinds of valves. Rising stem valves control that main culvert on all three sides, you know, the side walls and the center wall.
Right.
And then you have the cylindrical valves that I mentioned earlier that put water in from the main culverts into the floor of the chamber. So you can regulate those. But remember, when a chamber is out of service for locks overhaul, remember, we got to put in those floating caissons and then sink them in front of the lake gates so they can work on the gates. Then they've got to put in plugs in the chamber. The opposite chamber, it's kind of interesting. They use divers and cranes and drop bathroom plugs in the floor of the chamber to seal that off, so they can even work on a culvert and keep both chambers working.
That's incredible.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant engineering way before our time.
Way before our time, and made to last. You know, because they recognize that, hey, 100 years from now, we're still going to have to overhaul these things. And again, when you poured that concrete, you poured it to stay. You weren't going to go in there and jackhammer it back out and say, oops, sorry, we missed those holes here. You know, it had to be done. And there was nothing to measure it off of prior that you could say, hey, let's replicate this. I mean, this was a lot of this was original planning and original ideas and strategy.
Yeah.
So it really does. The more we learn these things, the more you realize the genius behind these things and what it took. And it was a hell of a lot more than just digging and moving dirt. You know.
It was. And then there's the constant changing of the equipment that's gone on for years. I mean, remember when the canal was built, there was 25 cycle electricity. It then moved to 60 cycle electricity. You have all of those electrical, hydraulic items, and today they don't have the bull wheels. They use hydraulic slave cylinders to move the gates, and that's very understandable. But you still have to remember that there's a lockout, tag out procedure to get everything checked off before you take a lane out of service or a piece of equipment out of service.
Right.
It's an orchestrated, amazing
Certainly
thing. And
is.
hats off to everybody who's still doing all of that work today.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, and then you turn around and you add that new piece of the new canal and all the other big components there, because it's a way different type of operation. But it's the same company running it and doing it. And, you know, even you take the pilots where there's different mannerisms of driving those ships in the bigger locks. And so, you know, it's the more we learn about this, the more we think, my God, these guys are just geniuses.
You just have to, you know, it's part of our heritage, and we need to appreciate it, and we need to share that appreciation with others.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
we do. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're thankful to have folks like you that can really tell us how these things work, because again, most of the books and most of the documentaries and everything out there, you know, they just kind of scratch the surface. You know, you dug a lot, you moved a lot of dirt, you poured concrete, and it climbs up here and it goes down there, and that's kind of the same story we've heard for 100 years. But, you know, these are the pieces that we really want to know about here. So, you know, going back to this piece here, we talked about the miter gates, right? And the whole concept of a miter gate, right? And
read some of that. But, you know, old Jim's going to have to take a break for a second. He's been watching you for an hour now.
Go ahead and do your thing.
Go ahead.
We will get right back. No worries. Yeah, so these miter gates, guys, this is what's really interesting here. The reason that they're called miter gates is that they don't close 100% at that, you know, perpendicular to the locks, to the chambers themselves, right? They have that kind of V shape. And as you see on the diagram there, the arrow's pointing down. That is water coming from the lake. Right, and so the lake is obviously in the middle, and it feeds water in both directions. And these locks, all these gates will always open towards the lake. That way, when they go back and close, you have the pressure of the lake pushing back down, helps to maintain, keep them closed, and less wear and tear because you don't have to have something constantly pushing to keep it closed, a mechanical device. The water itself.
Yeah, the actual pressure itself, right?
Yeah, serves as your locking
tight.
device.
Yes.
You know, so it is fascinating. And then you look at those locks there, and when you look at some of the information on the dimensions, 65 feet wide, 7 feet thick. I mean, it's just massive, 47 to 82 feet high. They vary in size depending on their locations. And then, you're talking about the just massive weight, 16 tons. And, Jim mentioned it earlier that they don't use that anymore, that wheel that they called it the bull wheel. That was the way they used to open and close these gates. And it was just an ingenious design. It was a wheel that weighed 34 tons. It was just a massive wheel here. And you see the drawing here is a little bit wonky here, but it does kind of explain what they did there. They used this wheel, it laid sideways. It wasn't upright. Okay.
Flat, right? Flat.
It was
like
exactly
flat
it was
earth.
flat laying down, but it was so heavy. They actually had underneath it where it laid, they had rollers that the wheel could roll on and spin because it was so heavy. But what it would do is the electric motors would then they would go into the teeth of this wheel here.
Uh-huh.
They would turn the wheel, which would then push that bar out to open and close the gate. So it was just a fascinating way of doing it because it really took something that just on dry land on itself would require massive amounts of power, but because of the
amazing
design,
thing, it was just like a 40 horsepower electric
yes,
motor.
I mean,
That just
like with your
closed the
finger, you
gate
can push it
because
kind of thing.
when the
Does buoyancy have
when the
anything to do
water
with that?
when the water is equalized, all you're doing is closing that gate, and of course, there's a corresponding gate on the other side.
Right.
But we use that same technology when we built a new Bonneville Dam lock in 1993. We
Wow.
used exactly the same technology instead of using hydraulics because the sensitivity of hydraulics being right over the water if there's a seal failure. We didn't at Bonneville with the salmon and all of that here in the Pacific Northwest. We didn't want the problem of any kind of hydraulic fluid laying in the water.
Sure.
But so it's still to this day here, and I remember,
So it's all mechanical to avoid any of those things.
Yes.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. One of the things that they talk about because of the way it works, and it's, again, this diagram really doesn't do it justice. And I'll tell you, I've tried 6 or 7 different versions of it, and each one, it still didn't do it justice. But the teeth aren't all the way around that wheel. It's just a portion of it.
Yeah.
And that's the one that rotates back and forth. And if you could almost think of, a little wheel on almost like the ones you used to put on the back of your bicycle that you would click down and it would grab and start spinning to turn your lights on. That's kind of what this does. There's a smaller wheel, then it grabs those teeth and it turns it. But because of the geometry of it, the beginning and ending of that cycle of opening and closing is slower than the middle part. So the gate starts real slow, then it speeds up, and right at the end it slows down again so that it has a good snug fit. And it's just a geometry. It makes it gives it its own natural braking system in a sense, right?
Like cabinets now, like drawers in kitchen cabinets. You can slam them and then they slow down at the end.
Yeah, they do, sort of, kind of.
That's good, Ricky. That's good. Yeah,
it really is. It makes sense. But it again, as you said earlier, it's something that they thought about. Because this thing is buried inside the locks. Right? In fact, I'm assuming that they've gone to hydraulics, but some of this stuff they probably had to leave it in there just because of its sheer size. You maybe weren't even able to move it. Because if you're talking
remember this during World War II. During World War II, they put in 3 feet of sheet steel above the miter gates. That's why you see the miter gates recess. If you look at the intermediate gates, they don't recess. They just go right to the level of the chamber top.
Right.
But if you look at the other ones that that are going downstream, you'll see there's a hump in the track that was put in to accommodate 3 feet of half-inch sheet steel layered in there as bomb proofing over the gates. That's how much that work was done extra during World War II.
That's amazing, and it just shows
The
that
profile is completely different from the original lock.
the priority of protecting water from leaving was paramount. And that's why you're doing all
Absolutely.
these things that, anywhere else, I mean, you're defending the canal and any other type of facility. You might have 1 or 2, bases here and there, but this place was just covered with military bases and just all these extraordinary measures. But it shows you how important that water source was to protect, that you had to go all out because, it's one of those that if 1% of their attack is successful, the canal's gone. At least for 2 years.
Think about this: the Queen Elizabeth II, when she came through the QE2, and everybody had pictures of it from everywhere. I was actually underneath the QE2 when she went, one of the times she went through, because that SIP-7 system that I mentioned is a tunnel that goes all the way underneath the lock chamber, and then you're in an air-conditioned environment. You have Otis elevators that take you down and bring you back up on the other side of the chamber, and there's a 8-foot diameter hydraulic ram.
That's
2400 volt pumps and systems it was absolutely amazing what they did in World War II to protect the
That's like a
Panama
whole other
Canal.
bunker down there.
Yeah.
That
we
is
talked
amazing.
about out at, Perico Island and the things out there. But this the 14-inch railroad guns. This is a major investment in making sure the Panama Canal was operational as best they could during a wartime
Protected
effort.
at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize that. And that's got to be kind of scary that you're thinking, man, it's a lot of water to ship up on top of us.
The QE2 is right above my head.
That's great. That's great.
But it's like a bathtub. You're underneath the bathtub.
No kidding. Wow. Well, it is, like I said, it was that floor that has 20 feet of water there, So let's talk about a couple of the different jobs and different roles there. Obviously, you didn't do all of these things, or maybe you did, but you obviously are familiar with a lot of them and what everyone did there. And I mean, there's probably a lot more jobs involved, but I think these are kind of like the main ones as far as getting a ship through.
Operations.
Right. So the lockmaster, and this is the one that we talked about this earlier when we started the show, that we were going to learn about this because this was the first real aha moment for me when I was doing some research to build these graphics. I envision a lockmaster, I guess, kind of like an air traffic controller, right? They're sitting up in that tower up in Atlanta airport, way up there, completely separated from what's going on, but they can see everything, right? They got a radio and whatnot. But it turns out that the lockmasters are out there walking the floor, I guess.
Yeah, the lockmaster's on the wall. He's generally on the center wall, east or west, but that's what he's doing. He's watching everything that happens with the vessel. The pilot, Andrew, and his boys and girls do a wonderful job of taking care of giving radio communications to the locomotive operators, keeping that vessel centered. They may have one or more pilots on board, making sure that everything is doing just fine.
Sure.
The lockmaster is there to make sure the lock equipment is prepared and ready for the next chamber. And he's communicating with your control house operator to set them up, make sure we have the right valves open, the right valves closed. We're getting ready. We're equalized. Let's open gates. And your towing locomotive operators, they're the ones that make it work, and they don't have a thing to say. The only thing they can do is ring that bell twice when they acknowledge the command from Andrew and his pilots.
Right.
It's like ding ding. Okay,
yes.
I'm executing the command. If you can't execute the command, then you ring it a few more times and get their attention.
Ding 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 ding. Okay, now we know.
Exactly. but yeah, and then those line handlers, not only, we have a line handler on the wall, but those guys in the boats are just amazing.
Right.
So you want to think that one through. That's a 2-man crew, and they're rolling that out, catch the monkey fist, tie off a cable. It's just pretty amazing.
Now, let me ask you. So the Lockmaster, you mentioned that they're ensuring that things are ready and for the ship coming in, that everything is set up properly and receive it and whatnot. And then of course they're still walking down there with that ship. Is it one Lockmaster per ship, or is it one Lockmaster per section, or how's that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, because there are times when back in the 70s when we used to do relay lockages. And that would be, and I've mentioned it once before on a show, where you might bring in a ship and tie it off on the middle level at Gatun.
Right.
And then a different lockmaster will take it up to the upper level and then dispense out into Gatun Lake. And then you're moving two ships at a time in the same direction on the lock.
So almost like an air traffic controller handing it off to the next controller, the next one.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Wow. And now, is that something, for example, the Lockmaster gets there, let's assume their shift starts at 8 a.m. Do they know how many ships they're going to be handling today? Do they kind of pre-program that? Okay.
Yeah, that's all marine traffic control driven. They know what they're doing, and then it's a complete ballet. It really is a wonderful ballet, and it changes every day. Marine traffic control does a wonderful job.
Yeah, I'll bet. And we saw from a little bit of the graphics with Andrew that you're talking, several days prior that they're checking in and getting everything set up and whatnot. And then, when do you guys, for a southbound ship that's going to be arriving, when are you guys getting ready for that ship? How far in advance are you prepared for it?
Well, depending upon if that ship is coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is probably going to be Panamax vessel at that time, because they want daylight hours for Panamax vessels.
Makes sense.
You're scrambling back, and you might get there 15 minutes before the vessel shows up if you're a locomotive operator. But from the control house to the lockmaster, they've got the paperwork, or digital today, I'm sure, probably walking around with an iPad.
Right.
But you're saying, okay, set up for a 612 wing fling, and when that ship comes in, they throw, instead of having the boat down below, they just throw the lines from the vessel right off to the corner of the lock, and that's called a wing fling. And then the line handlers on the wall will tie off the locomotive cables, and up they go. The 1-inch cables will go right up to the vessel.
Now, let me ask you, in the event, let's assume that you've got a ship, because you mentioned that the locomotive may show up 10 or 15 minutes prior to that one arriving, if they just got done with the other one. Let's assume something goes wrong with that other one, and they have a delay, something couldn't do something, whatever the case is. Is there times where last second, hey, well, let's switch to the other side, or I guess?
Well, that's the call of the senior lockmaster, to make sure if you can do an emergency change like that. But on the other hand, it's possible you might have to use. We had that turntable, if you recall. You could run a locomotive, and the locks at Gatun were different. In the other two, you could run 9 miles an hour with a locomotive. At Miraflores, and at least at Pedro Miguel, back in the day, may have changed by now. I can't tell you. It's 45 years since I've been there, working. But 9 miles an hour in a 55-ton locomotive is really moving.
Okay.
But you could move a locomotive pretty fast if you had an extra one available, and then use the turntable, cycle one out, put a new one in if you needed to. But generally, your running maintenance mechanic and your running maintenance electricians would be able to fix the problem. And the worst that would happen would be a vessel might have to tie up on the center wall before entering. And that would probably be the worst.
Right.
And it would be a 15-minute delay or something.
Okay. So now you mentioned a senior lockmaster. So what is a typical setup, on a day shift as far as lockmasters?
You're going to have a senior lockmaster. You're going to have a junior lockmaster. You're going to have a senior control house operator, and you're going to have a junior control house operator. You're going to have a full slew, at least probably 8 locomotive operators on either side, 6 to 8, depending upon what's going to happen that day.
Sure.
You'll have a line handler for each locomotive, and then you'll have one running maintenance electrician, one running maintenance mechanic, a senior tunnel leader, and mechanical and electrical. And their responsibility is for the operational equipment of the canal, the miter gates, the valves, and all of that. And the running maintenance guys are running with the locomotives.
Wow. So they're always on standby, or, is it
Yeah.
something that they're,
Yeah.
is it common to have work going on all the
You're going to
time?
have an electrician and a mechanic ready to work on a locomotive at a moment's notice.
Right. You don't have time to call and have somebody jump in a truck and drive down, and you got ships waiting.
No. And of course, if everything's running smooth, those guys are working in what you've seen before on the sides of the locks are locomotive maintenance sheds. So they're doing preventive maintenance on locomotives that are not being used in operations.
Right.
Right, because they're gonna be changing hydraulic oil, or they're gonna be working on the control circuits for the locomotives, doing
And they're
preventive
not driving those
maintenance.
locomotives off to some other place in Mount Hope to maintain. It's got to be done right there.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's pretty much all self-sufficient then, in a sense, as far as, the whole operation, the maintenance of it, and everything that goes on there.
One of the interesting things is all of the gearboxes and most of the major heavy industry work that's done on locomotives for overhauls is done at Pater McGill. So they'll move them to Pater McGill if it's a major overhaul on a locomotive.
Interesting. Okay.
It's the smallest lock, but it's got that maintenance facility right there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now let's take a look at a couple other things, and I wanted to switch gears here, but I didn't want to have just a big blank screen there. So now we're going to talk a little more about the whole operation itself here. This is just a simple diagram to kind of show you from the Caribbean all the way up to Gatun what you have there. In essence, it is a continental elevator, for lack of a better term. You're raising up a big ship, 85 feet, and it's very interesting. How they planned all that out here. The line handlers, you mentioned now these wing flings, and then the ones that we like to look at, and it's just, to us, it's kind of fascinating that with all the different technology, you still have a little panga, a little rowboat.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the,
and they tried a variety of other things, but a rowboat is ultimately reliable.
Right.
Imagine if you had an outboard that wouldn't start, or it died, or you ran out of gas, or you got water in your gas. Now the guy's sitting there between you got nothing.
Right. No, absolutely. That's it. It really is. The old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, really applies here. And this is,
there we go.
In a very, very easy way of doing it. And then, of course, that monkey fist. Did you ever? So let's backtrack a moment. What did you do on the locks? I guess we should have asked you that before.
That's fine. Here. Yeah, no. When you sign on to work at the locks, and I was a craftsman, I was an electrician. So you first do a stint in the electric shop where you do a variety of things and learn about the equipment, learn about locomotives. You have to do 90 days as a locomotive operator, because if you're a craftsman, a mechanic, or an electrician, you better know how to put the thing over,
heck yeah,
move it, and be available if they needed, like 8 locos for a big ship.
Right.
So then, just call in the running maintenance guy, or call in somebody from the shop, and he'll be the extra locomotive operator. So I did that for 90 days.
So 90 days you were driving the locomotives.
Yes.
That's
and
cool.
I'm telling you, that is you take a 55-ton locomotive up a 45-degree angle, and make sure you have your wires slack, because you always go up the incline with your wires slack.
Okay.
That's thrilling.
I'll bet. It's like a roller coaster.
It turns and goes up.
Yeah. Did you ever sit back and put your hands up?
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
That's a it's an emotional thing to do. Almost every time you do it, you get
Sure.
used to it. But I'm telling you, the first 10 times, you're like,
That
I
is
can't
fantastic.
believe I'm doing
Now,
this.
question:
Somebody's
is it
letting
the
me
same
do
speed
this.
when you're flat as going up? Is it the same speed, or do
Yeah.
you slow down a little bit?
Yeah. Now you only go up in 3 miles an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the fastest you'll go up.
Is that just inability to, or that's purposely you guys limit it
That
to that?
purposely is 3 miles.
Okay.
The locomotive's too heavy to go up any faster.
All right. That's when you start
So
putting
it would
damage
pull too much
on the motor.
current.
Okay. You know, one of the things that I started reading about with the locomotives, and you don't think about these things until you actually take a look at it and understand how it works. But they run on the cogs on the track there, right? And it's got the teeth. But
Yeah, call it tow track.
right, and the tow track is purposely built this way so that you can't pull the locomotive off of it, because again, you could get in a situation where something happens with that ship, and the next thing you know, this ship's going to yank that whole locomotive off the track, and you're going in the water. Good luck
Yeah.
to you there.
Yeah.
That is true,
There's
yeah.
occasions when vessels that were leaving the locks, let's say,
Okay.
and they got away a little faster than 6 miles an hour. That's your normal high-speed towing speed.
Okay.
And I can tell you right now that a 1-inch cable coming off the windlass on the locomotive makes a beautiful white line in the water when it leaves the drum.
Right.
But
That's when you're
it
safe.
happens occasionally that a vessel will leave the locks faster than they can pay it out, but it just peels it off. Okay, we sacrifice some cable.
Sure.
But we
Wow.
save the locomotive.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah, because I can't imagine it's a quick exit to get out once that thing gets yanked off that track. So,
Yeah.
wow. Now, do you feel when there's tension on it? Can you feel that locomotive move as it's?
Oh yeah, there's safety wheels. If you remember, that track is built kind of in a wedge shape,
Yes.
and then the teeth are on the top.
Right.
So those safety wheels are made of brass, and they have bearings in them.
Okay.
And they roll, but like anything, it starts to wear.
Sure.
And there's a
Feels like
little bit
weight.
of give, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And occasionally, it's happened that the wheels wore so much that the locomotive tipped, and what we call a plow shoe that picks up the 480 volts
Right.
on a T-rail in the slot moves. All of a sudden, kaboom. Yeah.
Really? So it shorts it
yeah.
out.
Yeah, it will trip the circuit breakers, but
Right.
it's even possible that it would burn the metal plate on the top because it takes so much energy to run those locomotives.
So now, would there be a danger to a linesman nearby or something when something like that, or is it?
Of
It was kind
course.
of contained in the.
But I mean, essentially it would trip, but you end up with, I can remember it happening one night, and I'm trying to remember, but the only thing I could see when the locomotive, it looked like it was a cloudy evening,
Right.
and there was a ball of fire,
Wow.
and I could see my shadow in the clouds.
Oh no! Oh no!
Because it's a brilliant light behind
Yeah.
you.
It's like a welder.
Exactly.
Wow. That's crazy.
No, it's enormous amount of energy.
Yeah, it sounds
An
like it.
enormous amount of energy.
And so I'd imagine that in those 90 days, you probably figured out which one of those mules you didn't want to get into, right? Because
Oh no. Now that was just a portion. I was doing a relieving lockmaster's job at that point.
Okay.
But I wasn't, but the locomotive, by and far, they do such a wonderful job with their preventive maintenance that
Right.
that's few and far between, but that's just happened on an occasion. And I'm sure it happened more than once.
Of course. I mean, you operate enough times, it's going to happen, But that's one of those things, like you say, that all of a sudden that's where the training kicks in, and then the senior lockmaster and the senior this person all of a sudden, hey, quickly go to plan B. You look back, all right, we have room, we have time. Okay, let's switch over to this side, and and it's got to be quite the quite the calibration there. Now,
Well,
do
you know,
you
in
ever?
the past, and I'm sure they still do it, but we used to have Friday night track outages. So that was an opportunity, you know, for some of us to work some overtime. But they would shut one lane down at 6 p.m. and work till 2 a.m. and chip out that conductor slot
Wow.
and the tracks and do maintenance on those tracks
Sure.
because it's all railroad kind of stuff embedded in concrete, and eventually it works its
Yeah, of
way
course.
loose,
Of course.
and things will start rocking.
Right.
But you think it's got to be done.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense. You know, the evenings you got less traffic, so you have the luxury of shutting down one lane and get a chance to work on that stuff. That's cool.
The smaller boats go through at night, right?
By and large, they do because going through the cut and stuff, they don't need the dimensions that the Panamax vessels do.
A lot less hazardous.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, did you ever do any? You did the electrical part. You worked on the locomotives, the mules. What about line handling? You ever get a chance to do that piece?
Oh, I always surprised the guys because I was a Boy Scout in the Canal Zone. I could tie
Right
a
on.
bowline just as fast as anybody.
Yeah,
And
right.
that's the nut you use when they heave the line down to you, flip it into a bowline and put it on. And I did it one time because the line handler wasn't available. I got out of my locomotive and ran down there and had him grab it. And
Sure.
the guys looked at me like, who does this?
Right. Hey, jack of all trades.
Well, that's the love that the people don't understand about Zonians of the canal is how every aspect, no matter what your job was, there was just so much that went
Gotta make it
into
work.
doing it. Yes.
Well, and it was a lot of people helping other people.
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
Correct.
Certainly.
Mhm.
There was never no I or me ever in the canal zone. Really, it's
Well, no, I was very, very blessed to work there for the short 7 years I was there,
Right.
working. And I learned so much that it helped me in the balance of my career on heavy equipment and hydroelectric plants and locks here in the Pacific Northwest.
Gave you a nice resume.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to live really the Zonian life that we all wanted it, but we got cut short, which is, you graduated from high school, you went to the apprenticeship program, then you got a job in the canal, and you worked your way up, and that's just beautiful. And a lot of us wish we had that for us to experience. So you're one of the lucky ones.
Honestly blessed, Ricky.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we all are, but yeah, I'd like to mention that. Wow, that was the life that a lot of us wanted.
Yeah, but no, and in this case, getting to work on the locks and then doing all these other different jobs here, which is kind of cool. And then we're still in the mule here, locomotive, and so the other question I have then is and Andrew kind of gave us some clarification on this because a lot of the publications and say that the mules were not there to pull the ships strictly to keep them centered, but as Andrew said, he goes, well, listen, there's occasions where if they got the horsepower, you might as well use it, right, and help us pull those ships through.
Yeah, those locomotives will pull 800 amps at 440 volts and help drag that ship through.
Heck yeah!
Because as Andrew has told us, you got all that water in front of it, and it's got to get behind it. And a ship's wheel can only do so much, but if you can get 4 towing locomotives to start dragging that thing,
yeah, certainly,
it speeds up the transit.
Yeah, absolutely does. And then, as far as keeping that slack you mentioned and keeping that tension, who coordinates that ultimately? Is it something that you guys are individually doing, or is that the lockmaster there again, or?
Well, that's your pilot. That pilot is going to say, okay, locomotives number 1, go ahead and go up the incline. Well, that's your key to put your wires out, get some slack, and then traction up, get up on top, and then pull tight again. And then the next set of locomotives, number 2s behind you, they'll come up the incline with their wires slack.
Yeah.
And then they'll coil up and tighten up. And then your pilot's going to be really good. He's going to say, number 1 center wall, coil in. And then you ding, ding. And he said, number 1 center wall, you're fine. And of course, if you're on the sidewall, And number one on the center wall is going to coil in. Well, on the side wall, you're going to give them a little wire. That's unspoken.
Okay, sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because you're listening to the radio.
Right.
And he's saying, okay, center wall coil in. Well, that means he needs to move the boat over a little.
Right.
So sidewall locomotive operator going to give him a little slack.
Sure, stands to reason because you're going to get pulling on your side now.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And that's part of the experience, and where you over time you do this. This is where that senior operator is helping to learn these things.
Yeah, and it's a smooth operating team when you're getting to that point.
Right. Wow. Okay. Day and night, rain or sunshine.
Rain or shine, yeah.
Guys
got to be out there walking. Yeah.
That's great. And then again, here we're talking about this is that piece that's just fascinating. These people are actually on the floor. But again, it makes complete sense. You can't be in really understanding what's going on if you're on a tower, quarter mile away, inside of
in the air
glass
conditioning,
building.
yeah.
Well, remember at Gatun Locks, it's over a mile long. You could have a rainstorm, and the control house can't even see the vessel in the chamber because it's a wall of water.
That's very true.
We've all been through those thunderstorms.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's probably the primary reason I left the locks was because out on a lock wall, and I'm of Scottish descent.
Right.
I am not going to last in the sun for an entire career.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to make it.
Right. Yeah, no.
So I had to find a place in the Pacific Northwest where it's cloudy.
Yeah, certainly, where it's cloudy all the time, but you still had the benefit of knowledge of a canal and locks and all that other functionality. That's really cool. Now into the control house.
Wait. Now, getting a job outside the canal with canal experience, did you feel like that helped you a lot?
Oh, absolutely, Ricky. What we learned as apprentices in the electrical program, especially, we got Madden Dam, Gatun Dam. We had a hydroelectric experience. We had the Madden powerhouse with gas turbines and steam turbines. In part of my apprenticeship, I worked at Gorgas Hospital, doing the maintenance in the hospital and checking in the funeral parlor, for Pete's sake.
Right.
You get to go everywhere.
Yeah.
Marine traffic control, do their electrical. The air conditioning and refrigeration plant in Balboa that used to carry the brine water for all of Balboa's air conditioning. There's amazing infrastructure that was built there that somebody had to maintain and somebody got to learn. And fortunately, I was one of those.
Is that the place over off by Sosa Hill, at the bottom of Sosa Hill?
Yes. And the Balboa, let's see. Remember where the teen club was?
Yeah, right across the street from that.
So it was real close to that.
Yeah, it looked like a big bunker.
Chilled water plant was what it was called.
Okay.
And they had large Centrovac units that chilled water, a brine, and pumped it around Balboa.
So underground, there's pipes all over pumping water for air conditioning.
That was the air conditioning.
I understand that was buried in Sosa Hill
It was
as well.
more efficient just to have a... Anyway.
Yeah.
Show another slide and talk about it because I got to take a break. I got to
Go. This is interesting. This is a good one.
Go ahead.
These
This is
are
great.
always so good.
I didn't realize that, Ricky, that they, back in the day, they were pumping water all around underneath Balboa for air conditioning. That's another infrastructure that's buried down there.
All the admin building, the high school, the hospital,
that's what I'm saying.
all the maintenance building.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, I froze.
Yeah, you did. You can still hear you though. Your audio's good. It's just your video. But yeah, that's fascinating to me that stuff was going on that way. By the way, guys, thank you for the folks that have purchased a beer. Again, guys, if you missed earlier tonight, and I'll pull it up real quick here on the screen so we can show it one more time here. But Jim has a annual tournament. It's been 3 years since their son Josh passed from cancer, and so they do a fundraiser called No Surrender up in the state of Washington. And what we want to do as a group here at Happy Hour at the Balboa Yacht Club, between ourselves, Ricky and myself, and then you guys are out there in the audience, if you can help out, there's that QR code on there that buy us a beer. all the proceeds will then go towards this fundraiser, this No Surrender. We want to sponsor a hole. It's $150, and several folks have already chimed in, and we've seen it just a few moments ago that have bought a beer for that. So if you're just now chiming in, and you can do this, it's a great cause. So go ahead and scan that QR code and buy us a couple of beers and actually help us sponsor the golf tournament if you wouldn't mind. But that I think that'd be a really cool thing to do, a really cool Zonian thing to do here. So
Absolutely.
Hey, you want to hear a little trivia?
Yes, please.
So, Panama Canal Zone, everybody's thinking air conditioning. There was one building in the Panama Canal Zone in Ancon
Okay.
that had heat.
They had heat.
Yes.
The heck would you need heat in Panama for? One
Believe it or
it's
not,
Ancon.
engineered with
It wouldn't
heat
be with
and air conditioning.
I mean, is
Both.
it the Gorgas? Is it the hospital?
Ancon
No,
also
it's
had like a
not.
records, like where they stored records. So it has something to do with that.
You're on to it, Ricky.
Yeah.
Close.
Okay.
It was the payroll office where they had all the new bills that came into the canal zone that they stored at the payroll office. That was humidity control.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to keep that area at a specific humidity, so they had heat and air conditioning in that payroll office building in Ancon. So a little bit of trivia for you.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of
Ancon, you know,
trivia.
studying the Tivoli, I also realized Ancon back in the day was like the big party town. That's where all the restaurants were, and you know, the like the nightclubs. But back then they were probably called
It was a
social
social
clubs.
center.
Yeah, it was. Ancon was the happening part of the Canal Zone in the
And
early
now we know that
days.
there was an area that needed to be heated, which is again, you never think in the tropics of Panama. At no point would you ever think you need heat.
Nope.
You know, wow, that's interesting. But it makes sense though. Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's if there's one place you want paperwork to be preserved, it's your payroll place. If nothing
But
else.
Ricky was onto it with the
Yeah.
paperwork. Yeah,
Yeah, he was. Look at this guy. He's
Well, you know, I'm an architect, so I think of the buildings, I think of what's going on there, and I start putting it all together. Oh, who would need it? I almost said the morgue, but I thought, no, they're not going to need heat.
Well, here's an
Just the
interesting question
opposite.
that somebody posed out here. How much of the canal workings is electrical?
Do it.
by and large, most of it. Of
Yeah.
course, in the day, I can remember working at either Gatun Dam, but you could tell the load charts at the dam when locomotives started up the incline. You could see the amount of draw on the
Sure.
generators. Yeah.
Like the kind of like the in the movies where the lights dim. Like, okay, something's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
That's
the lights
amazing.
didn't dim. They were, there was it really, most of it is electrical, and that's what I mean. The GE were the
Yeah.
original locomotives,
Yeah.
General Electric, or as some of the employees call it, Generous Electric. But that was a major push for them as General Electric to supply power, and I mean the
Sure.
generators and the motors and all of the transformers, all of that stuff, cabling.
Right.
For the
Great
canal.
badge
Big
of
effort.
honor.
Big effort.
Yeah, certainly. And now, I forgot what I was going to ask you now. Involving what was it about the generators? So were you there during the time that the Sturgis was parked in front of the
Yes.
Gatun?
Yes, the Sturgis was the, as I recall, it was brought over from being in service at Vietnam.
Yes, correct.
Right. And then I can't remember, maybe 18 megawatts or something like that, which is substantial, believe me. Not big in a power plant today, but that was substantial boost to the
Sure.
system. And of course,
Especially for
it
being kind of
parked over there
portable.
by the dam, and then it was hooked into the 44,000 volt system, which was the main transmission line system that you remember seeing over the railroad tracks.
Yep, correct.
So, and I've had the analogy of people that I've had to talk to and give tours to, but if you think of a power generating system
Right.
as a big wheel in the sky, remember that sector gear that we looked at
Yeah.
with the teeth on it?
Mhm.
So imagine one of those the size of the Millennium Falcon or some
Right on.
big Death Star or something.
yeah.
And it's turning in the sky, and you either put your shaft in and help turn it,
Right.
and make it go 60 cycles per second, or you put your gear tooth shaft in and you take energy out, okay, and run your mill or run your system, whatever you're doing. Somebody's putting in the energy, somebody's always taking out, but it's always going 60 cycles per second.
Okay.
And that's how the whole energy system in Florida, in Panama, in Iraq, or wherever you happen to be, that's how that system works. We're trying to increase generation and take generation off whenever it's needed.
Sure.
The energy input and the energy output happens at the exact same time.
Right.
So
it's almost like one going out the front door and one coming in the back door.
Yep. And it has to balance out. Otherwise, the speed will go off or the voltage will go higher or lower. Anyway, that's a whole different study.
Yeah. But you did a good job explaining it because I understood it. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
But it's an enormous amount of energy that's moving, and you can't quite stop it unless there's severe problems in the system, like the New England blackout,
right?
Or you lose all your load, and then all the generators would try to spin too fast. So there's governor systems built into that too.
To shut them down.
It's
so
a
they don't burn up.
balance. It's a balance.
Right. I imagine when that stuff goes out, it's not as simple as just flip a switch and everything starts back up.
No.
You got to shut stuff down and get everything back to the same timing. And interesting. Yeah, well, that, like you said, that's definitely for another show. We're gonna figure out how to do these
synchronizing of things.
Right. So now this diagram here is just kind of giving an explanation of the way the water flows, right, from start to finish. So kind of go over that with us and kind of explain how that works. And is this kind of accurate? I guess all the chambers get filled in from the bottom. Is that correct? Or
yes, in the Panama Canal they do. All of those they call them laterals from either the sidewall culvert or the center wall culvert that will come in. Then they're laterals, and they will bubble the water up. Interesting enough, I worked at the Willamette Falls locks, and they did not have any of those laterals or anything like that. All they did was pass water from one gate into the chamber below.
Oh.
So back in the day, in the 1800s, they had like wheels, and they would open a wicket gate that was inside the miter gate.
Right.
And it would just spill water into the chamber below. And then once it equalized, close it off, go to the next chamber. At the Willamette Falls locks, there's 7 sets of miter gates. You think, Gatun is huge with 3.
Right.
Willamette Falls on the Willamette River in Oregon City near Portland has 7 miter gates.
They're like home
7 sets of miter gates.
Wow.
7 chambers, actually. So 8 sets of miter gates.
And a lot of those canals up in the Northwest, are they for ship movement or for fish movement?
Mostly tugs. Tugs.
Oh, okay.
Tugs carrying fuel upstream and carrying grain downstream. So, for example, Bonneville Lock, where I spent 30 of my years working, that is about a 50 to 60 foot head lock. So one single chamber comes up 60 feet in one lift. And then upstream from us, about 40 miles away, 53 miles away, is the Dalles Dam. It lifts about 85 feet up.
Wow.
And upstream from that is John Day Dam. And they'll lift about 110 feet up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, John Day was put in 1973.
And now what's the biggest ships that would go through that?
The technology for doing higher lifts got better and better.
Sure.
Of course, the drafts aren't as much.
Right.
So the sill, it's only like a 30-foot sill.
Okay.
But the tugs moving grain downstream, fuel barges basically upstream, and that's what they're moving on the Columbia River.
That's amazing. That's a major climb there.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. And
Yeah,
of course,
when you look at the Bonneville lock, the new Bonneville lock, because there's 2 locks at Bonneville. One was there when I first got there, and And I can remember the working foreman I worked for. He says, "This is our ship lock." And after working at Gatun, I said, "Oh, that's cute."
Nice, little boy. Now go away.
but it is amazing to be able to lift a vessel
Yeah.
in just like 11 minutes.
Sure.
A total of 60 feet in 11 minutes.
Yeah, that is amazing. Because even a smaller, what you would call a smaller ship, is still a good sized vessel, right? In the scheme of things, I mean, it may not be a super tanker, but it's still a pretty good sized ship.
Like half a dozen barges pushed by a tug.
Sure. Wow, that's crazy. But then again, that's the geography in the Northwest. I mean, everything's
and then you have to remember that not only the Columbia River, but the Ohio, the Arkansas, the Mississippi River, they all have lock and dam assemblies. It's a big deal.
Yeah, certainly.
And a lot of it we don't pay any attention to.
Yeah, we take it for granted. Which means that the Panama Canal was, in and of itself a pioneering effort, but it also laid a foundation for a lot of our canals in the United States now, because now we have the know-how and we learned, from
all the way back to the Erie Canal.
Yeah, certainly. So now going back to Panama here, on any given day, on average, what would be a normal amount of ships that you would that a lockmaster, for example, would work through the chambers there in Gatun?
Oh, sure. On 3 shifts, there would be like 42 vessels going through the old locks. Now, granted, they're not all huge ships like they are today.
Of course.
And Captain Andy will say, you're putting 41 ships through today. That's a lot more volume than what it was back in the day. I mean, you might have had a banana boat or something go through.
Yeah, of course.
And part of that 42 ships a day might have been
2 or 3 ships tied together.
So, but the amount of tonnage that moves through the canal today is amazing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And it's funny that, they're talking about now that rail line in Mexico that Hyundai used to move some cars. And, somebody I saw in one of the social media posts that they put in there that, it would take 90 of those train loads to equate one ship going through the canal on a daily basis.
And
you're talking
3
20, 30
days to get across.
Yeah.
So I saw that as well. The ad said, and it just takes 3 days. That's it to get across.
Yeah. And
so
the Panama Canal's like, hold on,
one that you might want to look up sometime, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. But Captain Jack McKean was a pilot back in the 60s and 70s, and he took the Pegasus through the canal, and you want to look that one up, and you viewers will want to see that. It's called Rapid Transit.
Okay.
But it was a hydrofoil that was owned by the U.S. Navy.
Right.
And I think it's one of the fastest transits ever done.
That's the one that would all of a sudden get up on the stilts, right?
Yes.
Yes. Those are fascinating to watch. Amazing to see a ship that big get up out of the water like that.
Back in the day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you want to look that one up. Rapid Transit. It should be out there available. I know that.
I'm sure it is.
They probably have it on a videotape or something from the 70s.
I'm sure it is. So before we wrap up, what would you say was your most challenging day of that day that just everything went wrong when you were working on the
Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy's Law. There you go.
Good old Murphy from the Canal Zone. So I would have to say that it was the time when I told you about that incident where the locomotive shifted and it blew the plow shoe. We just happened to be there was an incident. The lockmaster had to make up we had a vessel. I think it was a vessel hit the sidewall. So the senior lockmaster, Bob Johnson, had to write up a report.
Right.
So he said, "Jimmy, get up here and take this next ship through." So I did
like,
that,
me?
and that's when I was handing out Well, you had to have an incident report form filled out by everybody on the shift. And I had just dropped one off for one of the locomotive operators, and I was stepping off the locomotive when it tipped, as I indicated later or earlier, and the sky lit up like God
Right.
just turned the lights on.
Yeah, of course.
And it was like, that's like, and then of course we're stuck.
Yeah, sure.
But that was probably one of the biggest challenges I ever had on the logs.
Now, in that instance, then, so that locomotive stopped working.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Now,
And others on the same track because they were all drawing current from the same substation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the rest of them on that same line, at least within a close vicinity, got impacted as well.
And now
And so now what do they cut the lines loose and try and keep the ship moving somehow, or?
Yeah. So what's done is the control house operator has to stop the flow of water.
Right.
The ship has to come down on hawsers. If you look on the lock wall, the old lock walls, there's divots for them to tie off. So you have to tie it off on 3-inch hawsers, start moving locomotives out of the way, get new equipment on there, new plow shoes, fix the track because it's arced and burned down in that copper T-rail that's underground. So
So you're down and out for a couple hours on that section.
yeah, on that one you got to do some work.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
so
the infrastructure part that melted down.
And now in that instance, is this where maybe even Marine Traffic Control may slow down some ships to kind of accommodate for?
Oh, I'm sure.
So they're coordinating everything now to get, because you're down to one lane for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because the traffic has to keep going, and it's going in both directions. You got to accommodate both of them.
Yeah.
Interesting. That is interesting. Wow. Well, listen, we learned a lot tonight about the Gatun locks. We learned about, all the different jobs that are out there. Again, to me, that the whole thought of a lockmaster out there walking around, didn't think about it, but it makes complete sense that, you got to be in the middle of this to see what's going on.
Eyes on.
Yeah, heck yeah, So, no, this was really great, Jim. I really, really do appreciate you taking the time to do this and helping us out, because it really gave us a whole new look on what the Panama Canal operates like, what it does, and what the people like you have to do to keep these things going, because it's
I just want to say that these people that were ahead of us were really brilliant, and the work they did to build that initial canal and the vision, and then the execution of it, and the U.S. taxpayers rolling forward and spending the money. Everybody can pat themselves on the back for that.
Absolutely. Even like when we talked about how they pivoted, right? Because it's strange to think that in 1905, a year plus of after starting this, and they still were looking at a sea level canal and say, wait a minute, we're not going to do it this way. What do you mean not going to do it this way? And so, and yet everything they did, I mean, it turned out masterfully. So I'm
going to give you one more trivia. You want some trivia?
Yes, please.
Okay, so John F. Stevens is probably a name familiar to you.
Certainly.
He was not part of the government effort initially, but he was drafted by the government.
Right.
His main job was he was a railroad engineer for the Great Northern Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
John F. Stevens is the one that came up with the non-sea level canal, the locks. This is how we got to do this. And all of that. I mean, it was a team effort, I know.
Sure.
But if you ever drive from Seattle, Washington to Spokane, you will go over Stevens Pass. And he's the railroad engineer that designed and built Stevens Pass that goes through the Cascades from Seattle to Spokane.
Wow. Okay. And
Same
for folks
guy.
that don't understand, when it comes to railroads, especially in the Northwest and out west, you have a lot of mountains. Railroads, the inclines are very shallow. It's not like these things go like the roller coaster or in the locks that mule going to Fort. It is very small. So you have to have some really smart brains to understand that whole geometry and geography to lay those those tracks out so that you don't have a lot of wear and tear on a locomotive trying to pull it up a hill. So when they talk about these passes, there's a lot more involved than just cutting out some rock and laying a track down. There's a lot of grades and elevation you work with,
And the second half of that trivia, John F. Stevens never saw the Panama Canal operational.
Isn't that amazing?
That's too bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really was his.
He said, "Job done. I've got this thing underway."
Yeah. And Goethals gets a lot of credit, and rightly so. What he did there was incredible. But the foundation was put in there by John Stevens. I mean, 1905 was a total switch gears and say, "Wait a minute, this ain't working, man. This is how we're going to do this." And thank God it happened that way, because otherwise, I think it would have failed. We would have been a second, like the French. It would have been a failure eventually.
And you can thank Colonel Gorgas too to make sure it happened.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. You got to keep the people alive to keep digging. That's what the French couldn't do, So absolutely amazing. But again, thank you so much, Jim. And we got it back up on the screen here. So, folks, if you see this on the screen still, this is the upcoming tournament that Jim does every year. It's honoring his son Josh. And what we're trying to do here as a community here on the show is sponsor one of the holes. They're $150. The QR code you see on the screen there, you can still do it if you're watching this show and it's not live. If you're watching it over the weekend, it's now Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. You can still go ahead and scan it. We're going to be doing this week and next week, so we can get that sponsorship going, guys. So if you want to help out, buy us a beer, buy a couple of beers, and all the proceeds will go to sponsoring this hole, and we'll see what we can do and raise as much as we can.
That's right. June 26th, guys. June 26th.
Yep, June 26th up in the Northwest.
26. It's the same backwards and forward.
Oh, there you go. Right what do they call that? Isn't that what is the name of that?
There's a word for that.
Something like
Palindrome?
that, yeah. Something like that. Palindrome or something like that. Yes. Interesting. All right. Well, now you guys know how to not forget this one.
We really appreciate the plug,
Thank
you. The local community also helps out a lot. But we're very thankful for all of our community.
Absolutely. And real quick, Jim, you mentioned to me previously about a tournament coming up in November here in Florida.
Right. Yes. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, the Balboa Invitational. This will be our 34th event, and we're going to be playing outside of Tampa at Indian Rocks is where most of us are staying, Indian Rocks Beach.
Sure.
We're going to have social activities at Bliss's.
Yes.
Beachfront.
Yeah,
I think that's
Beachfront
what it's
Villas.
called.
Beachfront Villas by Bliss.
She's agreed to host us there. We're going to have a wonderful time. Look forward to any of those who can come along.
Yeah,
it's always been a wonderful time.
And what's the date on that?
So we started as a class of 73. We started doing this back in 1993 at our 20th reunion. We decided we got to do this every year.
Heck yeah.
And so we've gone somewhere different several times.
Right.
And we love it's not a golf event in as much as we play 3 days of golf. It's more of a social event.
Of course.
Because we just get to hang out together.
You use golf as the excuse. That's the excuse to get together. Right.
What's the date on that tournament?
That one is going to be November. Let me grab my calendar here, Ricky.
We got time. We got time. We'll promote it. Yes.
Yeah. I think you said maybe like the 11th or something. Does that sound about right? I don't know why I'm thinking that.
It's the 9th through the 12th.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep. Right on.
And some of us are going to hang around a little later, and hopefully Captain Gary will take us out fishing.
There you go. There you go. That's a great time of the year to do it. It hasn't gotten cold yet, so it's nice and whatnot. But yeah, that should be a good time. And again, like Ricky said, we'll definitely be promoting that. I'll definitely be attending that because that's in my neck of the woods.
We want to see you there.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the meantime, we'll see you at the reunion.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to ask if you'll be at the reunion. So
absolutely,
that'll be great. All right. So again, guys, don't forget. if you just chimed in, buy us a beer. We're actually buying beers for the No Surrender tournament coming up here in June. But again, Jim, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's been a lot of fun. We learned a lot about the Gatun locks, how they work, and it's cool that you were one of those locomotive guys. I'm gonna have to work with some AI and get a video of you driving one of those locomotives, and that'll be fun. So
that'll be embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah. We won't make you wreck though. We'll make sure you go 3 miles an hour up the incline there and all that stuff. So, but
Jim,
anyway,
thanks a lot. Yes,
yeah.
I think it's your second time on the show, so I guess we see you once a year. Hopefully, we'll see you before that.
He is definitely a veteran of the show for sure. So, but Jim, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks again for joining us, and we will. We'll see you at the reunion here in a couple of weeks, and then
next Friday.
We'll see you and next Friday. Yeah, and we'll see you when you chime in again. Thank you so much for always
and
supporting the show.
I appreciate you remembering all of our. Because this is Memorial Day, it's very special for a lot of people who lost people paying the ultimate sacrifice. Thanks.
100%. That's what allows us to do the things that we get to do in this great country, is because of those folks that have made that ultimate sacrifice. So definitely make sure on Monday, everybody be thankful. Take a moment to just be thankful for everything that we have here and the people that have made that possible. So Jim, have a wonderful weekend. We will talk to you down the road. Take care, my friend. Cheers. All right. Hey, Ricky, man, that was good,
like
man.
Always, man. We learned so much about the Panama
really
Canal.
Good. Yeah, and Jim just so easygoing, he's just
and
always
learning from the people that worked there.
Yeah.
Not that read a book or saw a movie or was told by Fulanito, No, these are the guys that worked there.
Yeah.
Right on. Good job.
Yeah, absolutely did. It was fun. It was informative, very, very insightful, a lot of things that we learned. So I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget, guys, next week we'll be finishing off this Panama Canal month. We're going to talk to our tugboat people and learn what the tugboat folks do and how they work to keep those ships lined up, maybe help pull them around, do all the things that they do. And then, of course, our supply people, right? That help with any of the shipping things, any repairs that the ship may need, any supplies and all those other things. So that should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, June is going to be a special new segment coming in June is our architecture segment. I'm really looking forward to that because, as you can see behind us there, the architecture of the canal is unique, man.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate some great architecture.
Yeah, it should be a good time. So, but anyhow, everybody have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for those that made that ultimate sacrifice. But as usual, guys, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy your Friday, and Ricky, get us out of here. Cheers.
Hey, everybody, again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, man. We really enjoy doing this. We really enjoy bringing you everything we can from the Canal Zone. We'll see you next week with another great show.
Salute, everybody.
Love you guys. Salute.